If you've started to look for sewing patterns and just thought they are so expensive, they need not be. There are so many great styles and all of your basics can be found hiding at the thrift store secondhand. They might be disguised as, let's say, a little bit ugly, maybe late decades ago patterns, but I promise you there are great ones there for really great prices. I'm going to give you all my best tips and tricks on what to look for in getting great secondhand sewing patterns. Welcome back, my sewing friends. It is wonderful to see you here again. If you're actually just joining us for the very first time here, then we give you a very big welcome. My name is Evelyn Wood and I'm the creator of VintageSewingSchool.com. There I help all of our members really learn how to sew your own clothes and sew them really well. That's the key thing here. Really great garments. And look, as you know, we're talking about sewing patterns. All the time. If you viewers of this channel know, I thrift sewing patterns all of the time, and I very much get asked a lot about where do I get them from, because no one can seem to find any good secondhand sewing patterns. So that's what we're talking about all in this video. I want to break it down into what things to look for in particular, because there's better things than others, like different garment types to look for, and then obviously what to look for in the patterns so you don't sort of just discard everything. You know, you got to look with that critical eye, and that's what I want to give you so you can head on to the thrift store, or I'm also talking about any secondhand patterns. So not just the thrift store, the charity store, your op shops. It is also your local classifieds, Facebook Marketplace. Have a look at garage and yard sales. There is always, you know, a little sewing box with a stash of different patterns there that you can find all of these different places. And then of course, eBay and Etsy. If you can't get to any of them, there are plenty online. You will find all of these types of patterns that I see. So let's start with the thrift store. Some of my thrift stores have lots of sewing stuff and lots of patterns. Others have not much, some have none, and other stores use the actual pattern tissue as wrapping paper. Yeah, I know, it's really sad. So look, I totally know that you different thrift stores have everywhere. That's why I said look online, your garage sales, they're everywhere. Okay, so here's what I recommend. Save all of your dollars for all the nice, fancy, high fashion type styles that you really like. And those really particular ones with the really high styled items, you know what I mean, right? And indie brands are fantastic for those and getting some wonderful things. All of your basics, i.e., like let's start to what garments to look for. Let's start there, because all of your basics are going to be found here in the thrift store. You can find, you know, your pencil skirts, your A-line skirts, all of your basic skirts are in there. You can find basic t-shirts, like pull on like knit t-shirts, because knit t-shirt is a knit t-shirt. Button-up shirts in different styles. These are classic styles that you can find throughout all of these decades, all the different patterns. Pull over shifts, so just kind of like pull over shift either dresses, like even shift dresses, basic style dresses. These are all really good to look for. What's not so good to look for is, one, as I said, your high fashion, high style, latest fashion item, you know, is probably not going to find at the thrift store, because there's the latest nearest thing, right? Of course. And so the other thing is maybe pants and jeans, because the fit of those is quite particular and it does change over the decades. So unless you're maybe like me and looking for something that, say, doesn't fit like what is currently in fashion, then you might be in luck. If you want something a bit loose fit, lower crotch, etc., that type of thing. If you're looking for something that like fits like a modern day fit, you probably won't find pants patterns secondhand as much, because that is up there with the latest and greatest category that you need to buy new. And then I would say almost anything really fitted and tailored. So even a really super fitted dress, really fitted jacket can be a bit more difficult, because then when you get more fitted, that comes in line with the silhouettes that are popular at the time, and a lot of these are obviously older secondhand, and so those super fits have a different silhouette than like our modern silhouette is what we're looking for in modern taste. Now, You might be like me though as well and like something a little bit different, in which case you'll be in luck because you still might find those there. So does that give you an idea of what to look for, the particular garments, all your basics? So, your skirts, your pull-on tops, your classic tees, button-up shirts, these are all your classic pieces. This is what you'll definitely find at the thrift store no matter what. Okay, and so the next one is don't just disregard it because it's old. So a lot of these great patterns, and I'm going to walk you through some of these for examples. These are, from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s, and at first glance you just think, no, why would I want to wear this? Trust me, hang on with me, because there's hidden things in here, I promise. So don't disregard because it's old. And a lot of these are older, and on that vein, do not go by size numbers. Absolutely not, because over the decades, that sizing number changes. So we only go by body measurements. So don't be fooled into sort of glancing and thinking, oh, a size 12, that's my size, great. But it's from, the 1970s or the 80s, because that 12 will mean something different. You're a sewist now, we always know, go by body measurements. So always know your body measurements to know which size will be good for you. Okay, let's get into some examples, because one of the biggest tips I'm going to give you is look for the multi-garment patterns. So a lot of these come from the 80s and 90s, I find, and we're talking stuff like this. So this here is, at first, you're thinking, not interested, right? Like, not my style. But we're looking for basics here, right? Basics. So flip this over and have a look, and this one here, we can see, hopefully you can see, you've got a classic pencil skirt, absolute classic pencil skirt, and actually a very classic looking pair of cigarette style pants that are just slightly tapered. And I mean, they're easy to change to a wide or a thinner leg. And you'll very often find that in these, they might even have an elastic band waist pants as well, which are a real basic, easy first make. So there are hidden things in here all of the time. So I find most of these multi ones in suits. So you have skirts, pants, jackets, button-up shirts, etc. They're all hiding in here. So this one here is a great example where you've got another basic, lovely basic pencil skirt, another great basic pair of pants. Like these can you all make pajamas, and just get used to sewing in. You just look at the line drawings on the back, because the detail of the, the fashion, the colors, etc. don't exist. So the line drawings on the back can sometimes be less, let's say, obtrusive in old fashioned, so to say. Again, not quite multi-garment in the suits, but it is. And I mean, I look at this one and I think, oh boy, that's not very nice. But have a closer look. Look at these skirts, etc. So I can see, because I'm used to it, these skirt shapes, right? I'm thinking, yeah, this is fantastic, actually. Have a look at either the line drawing on the inside, or you might have to pull out the packet. You can see, look at these skirts. This is a classic pencil skirt here with a little waistband darts. You've got this lovely flared skirt here is perfect. You can even, like this jacket here, if you actually made this without these sleeves and just cut this a little bit lower, you've got a fantastic little waistcoat, right? This is this is just that little waistcoat. You've got that lovely kick out the front, the side here. Dang, so good. And it's probably 50 cents as opposed to how much are all the new ones? Another example, looking past the decades. So something like this one here, you might think, oh, so 70s at first, but again, classic skirts here, classic pants. Even the jacket on this is beautiful. And again, little waistcoat, and does it include? No, this one doesn't include the button-up shirt, but a lot of them do. So make sure you have a look, because a button-up shirt is a button-up shirt. Some examples of some dresses that are just like, these are perfect basic little dresses, right? Nice, easy fit. And take away the styling of this, I'm going to wear these like tomorrow. I want to make these. Again, look at the back to really see through the design lines, and you can see you've got a basic, lovely fit and flare dress with this one here. I mean, isn't that what, half of us are all paying big dollars for in the, little 1950s dress? If you are lucky enough to find anything even a little bit older in these jiffy style patterns here, these are fantastic for beginners. Basically, the whole premise of these little jiffy ones are that they're like two pieces of fabric that you sew together, and it's just really simple, easy, like voluminous style, like no fit dress, right? And you fit it with a belt. Easy. It makes it so easy. These are great beginner friendly basic pieces. You can see you've got lovely like design lines, like not a lot of things going on here, right? When I talk about patterns and things, it's just a back and a front and some binding, etc. Nip it down with a belt and it creates a beautiful shape. So you can find, though, it doesn't have to say the word Jiffy on it like these do. So this one, for example, this one here is not too dissimilar. It's got a button front, but you know, you can do without, and you can find them without, right? It's just a few pieces, tie it with a belt, not too much fitting, and it works just the way you want it. Just find the right beautiful fabric that you want. This here is quite interesting. So this here, you could just make this a little bit longer, and then if you belt this up, and you've got exactly the same thing with a sleeve version. You could obviously make it without the sleeves and go from there. So really simple ones can be found at the thrift store. So don't just think you have to find the skirt pattern and the something else pattern. Remember, they're hiding in lots of different things. Now, I hope that gives you a good example of really what to look for. Really go past the decade. So try and disregard what it looks like. Look at the line drawings. It really does help to unstylize it, so to say, and look past the decade and past the fashioning, the styling that they've got going on, and see the silhouette, because you'll find those basic pieces. Look for those basic skirts, waisted skirts. Look for the knit t-shirts, the button-up t-shirts, the pull-on type numbers that are not really much fitting. These are all classic styles that just go, and you can find them so easily. So, what's my favorite decade though? Well, besides actual vintage ones, of course, my ones that I find in the thrift store I really like are the 1970s patterns. I find this a really nice little sweet spot in the, old pattern range, so to say. One, the styling. I mean, you can see these here. I picked these because these are much sort of my style. Their styling is like 70s does like 1930s look, which is obviously suiting my silhouette, but I'm just drawn to these particular ones because of that. You'll be drawn to the ones that you like in your sort of style too. But I choose these ones because the patterns from this era are, well, they're single sized usually. So you'll find they have just one size on the pattern. So you might be thinking, oh no, let's be able to change sizes. Don't worry, you'll learn how to do that. The thing is with multi-sizes though, is that it can get really confusing. You know when you lay that out and there's just line after line after line after line and you don't know what's going on, especially when you're learning? Yeah, it's really, really hard and difficult to look at. I find most of the ones from the 1970s, they're single size and they actually have the seam allowances drawn on them. This is what you want as a beginner because it's like imprinting in your mind. You're seeing it there. It's already done for you to think seam allowance, stitch line, all these things are really there, and it's really easy to kind of navigate, get your brain in pattern making mode. So I find that really useful in where the patterns are. And I find the pattern instructions are a sweet spot between really older than that. The sewing instructions get quite sparse where it's like finish in the usual manner, that type of thing. So they're listed out in detail, like what we're used to. And also I find though that the shapes have a lot more fitting and form to them than say in the 90s when it's a bit looser, bigger armholes, things like this. I find the 1970s still have a really nice sort of slender contoured fit, and that's real base, like the patterns are designed with a real fit in mind around the body. So anyway, that's my sweet spot in my pattern decade that I find at the thrift store. Obviously I like vintage ones, older as well, but is what I find secondhand. So I do hope that it gives you more perspective on what to look for when you're looking at these secondhand patterns to find all of your really great basic pieces, because there's no need to splurge out on all of your patterns. A nice mix is really good. Get those high fashion ones from the indie brands. Get all of your basics secondhand. Remember, eBay, Etsy, garage sales, thrift stores, have a great look. I would love to know below what has been, like, what do you find the best of in your thrift stores? Let us know. I'd like to know your little pattern finding hacks as well, because hey, we could all use some more tips and tricks, right, on finding secondhand cheap patterns. All right, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, my sewing friends, happy sewing. Bye.